Code Week is a great passion of mine, but so is the Cape Town Science Centre, and I'd like to tell you that the Cape Town Science Centre is for children of all ages. So I hope we'll see more of you at the Science Centre to play on the exhibits. So just a little bit about Africa Code Week. It is an initiative across Africa to get as many kids coding as possible, and a little bit more than that. It's about an advocacy program for coding across Africa. I got a call in December 2014 to say, from one of our sponsors, SAP, to say, please could I join them in Paris? They have an idea to do Africa Code Week. They're involved in Europe Code Week. They're involved in Hour of Code, and they'd like to do an Africa Code Week. So I went along, and in April of 2015, we had our first pilot event at the Cape Town Science Centre. We kind of worked out how we thought it would run across Africa. And then we started, and that was our first year, and we're now going into our third year of Africa Code Week. It's been a great success. It's been completely not what we expected. We thought we would just be wetting our toes and working our way slowly through Africa, introducing coding to lots of different schools and etc. And we got some cool prizes, and I think the prize that I liked the most was the MIT prize that we got in Boston last year. That was fun. So just to say that, as I said, our goals in the beginning were quite sort of modest. We said we would work in 10 countries and we would engage 20,000 kids during Africa Code Week, which is a sort of 8-9 day stretch in October. We ended up working in 17 African countries and engaging almost 89,000 kids. Then the following year, which was last year, 2016, we increased that number to 30, so we almost doubled the amount of countries we were working in. And we said we'd engage 150,000. The end result was 426,000, whatever. So that was really cool. So now we're getting a little bit nervous. So this year we said, okay, what we'd increase it to 35 countries, and we'd look at 500,000 children. Because I think it was, beginner's luck, I'm not sure, but it really has just taken place very quickly, and people have really embraced it. In this year, we're going to look at 35 countries, as I said. The new countries are Guinea-Conakry, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad, and Mauritius. We still have quite a few other countries to go. It's not always easy to travel to all the countries. It's not always safe. But the beautiful part of it is that we work with partners in all the different countries. I've got so many anecdotes and wonderful things to tell you that have started because of Africa Code Week. It's sort of taken on a life of its own, and people have just taken the initiative and run with it and done what they wanted. We've had very young kids deciding that they would like to be coding teachers and teaching their peers. We've had age and gender diversity is very important. We've put quite a big focus now on gender diversity. We've had a Botswana chief phone us and say that he actually needs us to come to his village and teach him, which was really a wonderful experience because he was quite an old man and he actually was wonderful. So there are lots of wonderful stories of how this project has just taken off and people have embraced it as their own across Africa. I spoke a little bit about how gender diversity is very important and actually stimulating women to code, girls to learn. And one of the things that have come out of it is this year, in fact next week, we have teamed up with the German government as well as UNESCO, and we're hosting a e-skills for girls. It's all people that work with girls in Africa coming together. It's a networking event, it's an upskilling event, it's an event to empower these women so that they can go back to their countries and keep on working with girls, girl learners. In fact, we've got two people that Robin spoke about earlier coming from Cape Town. The one is Emma Dix from Code for Cape Town. And is it Code for East? Code for Cape Town, and the other one is Baratang Mia from Girl Hub. So I just recognise the two names. So they're coming as well with a whole bunch of other ladies from across Africa. But as I said, everyone always asks me about the architecture of Africa Code Week. How does it work? And it really is. It's all based on partnerships. Partnerships are incredibly important because that's the way it works. It's public-private partnerships. We really start working very early in the year with governments. We have 5 government patrons. We work with 11 governments or 12 different governments at the moment we've got on board. It's about being an advocate for coding and to get education ministries to introduce coding into their primary school curricula. In South Africa, which is the case in quite a few most countries in Africa, coding is only introduced in grade 10, which is really very late. But then that's just a generalization, because when you get to Zimbabwe, they've introduced coding in foundation phase, so which is very, very small. But anyway, so one of the things about Africa Code Week is actually to be an advocate for it in the government arena. We have many partners across Africa, from tech hubs, mostly tech hubs, who are very willing to take part, be part, and give back to the younger generation. We have ambassadors. Ambassadors are people that give freely of their time and use their networks and their community to push Africa Code Week and get kids coding during Africa Code Week. And then we train teachers. So besides engaging with government, right up until Africa Code Week, which is in October, this year it'll be from the 18th to the 25th of October, we'll go to as many countries as we can and do something called Train the Trainers, where we'll train as many teachers over a 3 or 4 day period during that time. I mentioned earlier that we have 10 governments. We've actually got 12 governments. You can add Lesotho and Zimbabwe to that list. And that's really firm relationships with governments, with agreements, etc. in place. And the idea is to get all governments in agreement. And I've spoken about coordinators and ambassadors. And just to say, this is where Rahima came in. She came to a Train the Trainer session at the Cape Town Science Centre, and she said, well, what can I do during Africa Code Week? So I said, well, really what we want is as many people who have come to Africa Code Week's Train the Trainer sessions to go back to their schools, to their communities, and just get kids in their neighborhood or wherever they are to code during Africa Code Week. We had one guy who opened up his garage, lent 5 computers, and had all the kids in the street come and do coding during Africa Code Week. So it's that kind of thing. It's about getting as many kids introduced to coding as possible, because I can guarantee you, kids are so unbelievably smart, so they blow me away every time I have to do anything with them. And before they know it, they're teaching you everything towards the end of the lesson. They just go with it. It's amazing. Just to go back a little bit again, just to say, SAP employees, I think this is one of the great things that SAP does. I've really grown to like the company over these 3 years, that they send all their software developers to come and teach the kids and the trainers during the Africa Code Week, and to train the trainers. So it's a wonderful thing. What we want to do is encourage as many people as possible to join together to help us train teachers to teach, or volunteers to become coding teachers for children, to host workshops in their communities, to leverage their synergies, to leverage whatever opportunities they've got to really get as many kids coding as possible. What we've been teaching and what we've been using in our Train the Trainer session is Scratch, and also a web development course. It's not that you have to use Scratch during Africa Code Week. It's just something we use it because it's a really simple drop and drag basic coding program that really teaches you the basic skills of computational thinking and what have you, and it's very creative. It also is free. It also doesn't require you to have bandwidth to learn. So you don't have to have Wi-Fi to learn. You can log on and you can learn. And also, once you've learned a little bit about Scratch has the most amazing immersive environment that you can go back to and talk to your peers, share projects, etc. And then we've developed a web programming a class that we also give. These courses, besides being taught in the Train the Trainer sessions that we do across Africa, are also on the SAP MOOC, and they're free of charge, and you can go through the course and get a certificate for doing them. Either you can be a teenager, or you can be somebody wanting to do the Train the Trainer workshop. So really, just to say that it's been a roller coaster ride. It's been a wonderful thing just to see how people are embracing Africa Code Week across Africa and making it their own. And I hope that this has some kind of impact to get kids coding at a very young age. So thank you for listening.